I think the biggest reason the senior teams are not bringing their individual contributors along for the ride. They're not educating them. They're not bringing them into the strategy conversations. They're not being exposed. It's kind of a push down instead of a bring it up.
Welcome to 5 Minutes, your quick dive into the wide-ranging world of insurance, technology, and leadership. I'm Miguel Edwards, and I'll be your guide as we explore these topics that are transforming not just the insurance industry, but the business world at large. Along with sharing observations I've made over the span of my career in insurance, technology, and operations, I'll be chatting with some of the brightest minds in business and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned executive or a rising star, an industry expert, or just curious about how technology is revolutionizing insurance, this is your perfect spot for your weekly dose of insights. This is 5 Minutes.
David Squibb.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining me here.
It is my pleasure.
Awesome. So how has InsurTech Hartford Symposium 2025 been for you so far?
First time here.
Okay.
Much bigger and much more broadly diverse than I was anticipating. So, of course, I always do the ITC in Vegas,
Sure.
The big event. And, you know, friends of mine had said you guys should definitely be here and be part of this. So glad we finally took their advice and came, and this has been a phenomenal experience.
That's awesome. Yeah. This is a little bit more intimate. It allows us to have more kind of tighter conversations, right?
It is. Yeah. And, you know, the thing that I found really surprising was that it was intimate, but yet when I walked in, I go, well, this is a lot bigger, but yet still has that intimate feel.
That's
so
right.
For a state event, I thought, like, God, this is pretty incredible.
Awesome. Very good. There's a question I love to ask people
Sure.
because there's typically an interesting story behind it. How did you get into insurance?
That is a great, they were hiring. I've been in insurance since the day I got out of college.
Holy cow.
My first job out of university was at an insurance carrier.
Okay.
Started on the IT side. And I hated it because it was really interacting with, back in those days.
Mainframe.
It was mainframe. It was interacting with a piece of equipment, and I needed much more people involvement. So I quickly left the IT side and went on to the business side, and that's where I learned insurance operations. It's where I learned how to be in this industry. Learned all the different aspects. Worked in an area of the company that was kind of like in-house management consultants.
Right.
We would kind of go in and help them figure out how to improve operations. And of course, back in the 90s, that was a lot of focus on automation, rolling out desktop automation right at the time. And then that really kind of gave the springboard to then moving into more the service provider side of the equation, and kind of did my gamut there. And then now I'm still on the service provider side, but as now running a BPO provider, we are right back into servicing business operations for insurance carriers. So
Got it.
It's been a phenomenal experience and a great ride.
So when you're talking to potential customers, David, about the value proposition of Covenir, how do you articulate that value proposition to them in a way that where they can see the value of outsourcing those operations?
Great question. You know, it's interesting. People think that an outsourcer is just somebody to do something cheaper. And really what we strive to do is to really be a business partner in conjunction with those people at the carrier. So the value proposition we bring to the table is like, hey, I want to free up you and your resources in order to focus on the things that are strategic to you as a carrier.
Right.
Business operations, and whether it's one kind of function, or we have some customers where we are their entire operational staff.
Right.
We do everything from front office, call center, and first notice of loss, all the way down through back office operations, things like lockbox and payments and paying out their agent commissions. And then we run a large commercial print shop. So things that a CIO or a carrier, they don't want to deal with, but they want to have a partner that understands that, then we can bring our best practices to the table, working across 70 carriers.
Right.
We can bring the best practices for print and print operations. And you know what? Instead of all these carriers building it themselves and trying to be cutting edge, I can do it one time and let other people leverage and benefit from that. So I think best practices is a value proposition. I think cost reduction, right? Because instead of you standing up a call center and 10 other carriers standing up a call center, I can do that once and spread those resources across.
Right.
And that's the kind of things that give birth to kind of innovation in our space.
I love that you just talked about that, because I think about my role in the past as a COO of a division of Allstate, and the things that I thought about from an operational perspective versus the things that you would be thinking about
Absolutely.
as a BPO. And so talk a little bit about your lens on technology and continuous improvement, because I'm going to bet that there's a slightly different lens that you're looking at than, let's say, a carrier COO.
Well, 100% right, because from our perspective, we're looking at not the way one particular customer wants to do it, but we're looking at how do we leverage that across the different parties that we service,
Right.
But yet in another way, also one of our key messages that we talk to customers is we're not an extension of your team. We are your team.
Yeah.
So what we do very differently than what a lot of other players who outsource or provide insurance services, what we do is we go in and work with the customer to understand. We say, we'll bring our best practices, and we've learned a lot across so many carriers. We'll bring that to the table, and then you make it yours. And then the way you want it is the way we'll do it, and we'll give you full transparency into that, and then we'll also then drive that. So from an innovation perspective, right, we take the knowledge that we have. We take the many customers we're talking to, the CIOs, the COOs, the CEOs. We're talking to these guys, and they're telling us these are the challenges we're facing. I'll give you one quick example.
Go for it.
Recently, we work with a carrier. They're based out of, they're based in the Southeast.
Okay.
And they came to us. They are a print customer of ours. They use other services too, but they're a very large print customer of ours. And they came to us with a business challenge. Basically, they follow within some of the states they write in. They're on kind of some of they follow the regulatory changes that are going on. And there was a case law in one of those states that basically the carrier was found that their legal notice of cancellation to a particular insured was deemed to be not appropriate. And therefore the carrier had to basically pay on the claim that they and this wasn't our customer, but this was a customer that they were following. And so that carrier had to pay on a claim for a policy that they had technically canceled. But because of the way the law was written, the proof of mailing was not deemed to be appropriate. So that customer came to us and they said, look, we're using that same method. We need to pivot in this jurisdiction, and we think what they do, we think other jurisdictions are going to follow suit. What can you do to help us?
Right.
So we were able to come to the table with our knowledge, bring our technicians to the table. We were able to bring our U.S. postal contacts to the table. He couldn't even get somebody from the U.S. Post Office. And then we brought also our pre-sort vendor to the table. And together we came up with a solution, and very quickly were able to solve his business problem. And then it allowed us to basically launch, we call it IntelliMail Advantage.
Right.
So it's a solution we launched that now gives them complete transparency from the point where they generate the legal notice of cancel, not just through my print operation, but out the door and to the post office. And so they can now take that and launch that. And he has said it has literally probably saved them millions in what could have been claims that they would have been owed and paid out on.
That is phenomenal. Give me a couple of seconds here to recap what I think I heard from two perspectives. One is, I heard that you have a scale that you operate with that gives you weight that perhaps some of your individual customers on their own don't have. In and of itself, that has tremendous value. It's like you're a group buyer, and now you have scale that they don't. But the piece that I think is the most intriguing, and I think about myself as a former CIO, I've got to solve this problem, and I'm going to solve it as fast and as efficiently as possible, oftentimes without the regard for scale.
Yeah.
Whereas it sounds like you guys approach this problem with, well, we've got to productize this. It's got to be scalable. It's got to work for not only our existing customer that's demanding this, but future customers, future needs, and that in and of itself builds a better, more scalable product. That's what I'm hearing.
100%. Same thing on our call center side. So, right, I have a 65-person call center, right? And they're servicing carriers all over this country. Continental and not continental, but we're servicing, and again, I can build that call center once, right? And if a carrier in the Southeast has a cat, right? A hurricane hits Florida, I can flex that muscle where a carrier in the Southeast doesn't have the scale to do that, because I can pull from my people who are servicing California or Hawaii or the Midwest. And so we've just launched, we call it the Call Surge Guarantee. Another offering where we are guaranteeing to our customers that when you have a surge or a cat, I can flex my muscle and your customer experience won't suffer for it. And if it does, I'll guarantee it.
I love that.
So I have the ability to do it one time. And again, right, you even just think about staffing a call center from 8 in the morning until 8 at night, right? How many people do you have to have for the perspective of maybe one person that might call you at 8 o'clock at night? I can do that and spread that wealth 100%. Across a lot of different players.
Optimizing that occupancy rate as an individual carrier is just, it's a fool's errand.
Yeah. And and the thing we battle all the time is, right, when people are so focused only on cost, right? We've had customers that have said, hey, our parent company is based out of the UK and they want everything offshored. Okay. They're quickly coming back to us going, but the customer experience, it's cheap, but your customer experience. And again, it's something at a point in time where one of the few touch points that a carrier has with their customer is during a claim, right? One of the very few times you ever talk to your insurance company, last thing you want to be doing is sacrificing customer experience. That's the time to do it.
At the moment of truth.
And again, you can find a cheaper alternative. And maybe you can, if you look at the cost of a resource for me and a cost of a resource for a carrier, sure, they probably can hire local people really dirt cheap. But how many of those do you have to hire to cover what you really need?
Right. I love that. David, let me switch gears a little bit, because I sat in on a panel that you were participating on. And by the way, congratulations, it was an amazing panel.
Thank you.
I heard basically some gentlemen make legal or regulatory compliance sexy. So congratulations.
Okay,
good job,
compliance
well done.
and sexy. I appreciate that.
but you made mention of a report that you guys commissioned that I just want to ask you a couple of questions about. Just first off, give us a little bit of some insight as to what was the impetus behind that report, because it's pretty fascinating looking at the disparity between cohorts of people contemplating readiness for technology. Give us a little bit of background of the report you commissioned, as well as kind of what was the impetus and the results.
So it's interesting, right? This industry is littered with surveys, right? Everybody does a survey. Everybody, all of the advisory firms do them, right? That's great. The reality is most of them are paid for it. Right. And so, what we wanted to do was go independent. We wanted to do something and go out and really focus on the operational leaders, the operational staffs within the carriers. So we went out to carriers, MGAs, and insurtech startups, right? And so that was really kind of through these. We didn't go into agencies. We really focused on the carriers, the MGAs, and the insurtechs. And we really went after all positions within those companies. And we had an overwhelming response. We had a goal and we surpassed the goal for the respondents. And so what we really were focused in on was, what are the operational leaders and people within these organizations really saying, and how do they really feel about where they're positioned in the industry, how they're going to move forward, what kinds of things that they're ready to deploy, right? And we covered a broad spectrum of topics, and we came up with some pretty interesting findings. We just released the report. Anybody can go out to our website, CovenirBPO.com, and get a free copy of the report. It's a phenomenal piece of information, and there's some really good insights in there on how we pulled the data from the various questions together. And I found it to be hugely insightful. When I saw the results, I was skeptical, because I've been around in this industry a while, but I was very, very impressed with.
Give us a little taste of what you guys saw in the results.
Well, there's a lot, but just a few of the examples. One is that operational executives are far more optimistic than those people reporting to them.
Interesting.
By a large gap, right? So 90-ish% of executives feel very well positioned. They feel like they're kind of a high level of trust in themselves and their ability to make decisions around things like AI. Operational staff, less than 50%, right? And so big stretch there of the people who think they are and the people who are on their teams feeling like they are not necessarily strategically well positioned and or ready to do that. So
I know, David, that I assume it was not in the scope of the survey as to what's driving that disparity, but given your experience in the industry, do you have any hypothesis as to what that could be?
Again, purely hypothesis. And I would say this is also based on my own experience from running tech startups and running large, enterprise organizations and what we do today. I think the biggest reason, the most probable reason for that is that the senior teams are not bringing their individual contributors along for the ride. They're not educating them. They're not bringing them into the strategy conversations.
Gotcha.
They're not being exposed. It's kind of a push down instead of a bring it up. And so what we try to do is really bring, and again, we talked about it in that compliance thing, is to not be doing things in a silo, right?
Yeah.
It's really about getting the right voices at the table, right? We're in the process right now of looking at a new solution, right? And again, it's really a technology play about bringing some AI into, actually it's on our call center side. But in that conversation, I have marketing at the table. Right?
Yeah.
I have sales at the table.
That's right.
I have the technologists at the table. I have the people who are dealing with our customers at the table, because I don't want to just build something for the sake of building it. I want to understand what's the business problem that we're trying to solve. And then based on that, let's bring a solution that's really meaningful to the table. Right? And so I think all of those voices.
Yep.
Right. And then everybody buys into it. Right. And so I think one of the reasons that we see the big disparity between the execs and the individual contributors.
Right.
Again, purely hypothesis, but based on my experience, is because we're not bringing those people along. And again, right, we all know Gen Zers want, the new generation, they want to be brought in, they want to be involved in that. And so I think that's a huge missed opportunity for a lot of places.
I agree with you 100%, but I've got to be a contrarian.
Okay.
And I've got to put something else out there.
Sure.
And I want to get your reaction. What would you say to the frontline worker who's saying, no, David, it's because the executives just don't know what we're dealing with on a day-to-day. They're not clued into what our work is actually like.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hear that.
Okay.
I do hear that, right? We have people on the front line. We have, but they're also coming at it from a singular perspective as well.
Right.
Right. And I think in a lot of cases, they're looking at what they see and they're not looking at it from another perspective, right? We had a situation recently where we had a frontline employee who they were filling out their annual employee survey and they were answering a question and they said, I feel like I'm being put in a position where I have to lie to a customer. Because I don't know that the carrier is going to do that. And I said, that's not lying, right? So they were looking at it from their perspective, right? I'm telling them their check is in the mail because that's what the carrier told us.
Right.
Okay, then our job is to, your job is to you represent that customer. So you're not, that customer's not saying to you lie, right? And so I think a lot of times they're looking at it from a very singular focus as well. Right. And again, that's why I think bringing them into the process is critical.
It is. It is. I get that. That makes a lot of sense, because while you're bringing them along also too, you could be correcting a lot of ill-informed assumptions and narratives that could get the benefit of that broader experience.
Yeah. And I think, right, you know, I think when they're part of the equation, part of the dialogue, I think then they stay longer. They want to be involved. They want to grow with you. They want to be part of it because they feel part of it.
Yeah, got it. David, you mentioned the word AI briefly in your last response and talked about you're bringing that into the call center. We can't have a conversation at an insurtech conference without talking about AI, right? We'll be hung if we do that. So talk to me a little bit about Covenir's approach to evaluating AI opportunities, and also too, I'd also be interested how you talk about that with your customers.
Yeah, it's funny. We were launching a campaign a while ago where we said, you know, we use AI, but it's actual intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. But I think, you know, in the world we live in, you're right, AI is everywhere. Now, for us, we don't mandate technology. We leverage what a carrier wants to use. So if a carrier's on a certain technology stack, we will leverage that and use that on their behalf. Because I am an independent company, I'm not linked to this core system or that core system. We serve it. If there's a core system out there, I can guarantee you it's being used in my staff. My staff is accessing that. Same is true for a lot of the AI tools that are out there. We're now starting to get involved, a lot of them. Where we're leveraging it is in, for example, in the call center, we're looking at some AI tools that come as part of our telephony platform that'll allow us to do things like auto listening into the phone calls and providing insights real time to the agent, sentiment. This carrier wants to call every customer by their first name. So are we leveraging that on this? Is that happening? Did the agent say, hey, Miguel, you know, let me replay your policy number to you, Miguel. If they haven't done that, then they're getting that feedback real time during that experience. So we're looking at some pretty cool technologies that are out there. And again, we're really keen because we have to hone in on, because it's not our data. It's the customer's data. And so we really are in harmony with our customers, trying to be sure we're driving through that in a meaningful way.
Got it. Look at your crystal ball and tell me what you see for the future of service providers, the future of technology and insurance. What's got you excited and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think for us, right, the key thing for us, what I see is we're going to be around. We're not for everybody. Not everybody wants to do it. I think the things that are where we're really coming into play are in those carriers that I think are forward thinking and don't want to try and control everything. Right. Carriers that want to control everything. Right. And that's historically in this industry. A lot of the bigger players, they want everything in house. They want to manage everything. They want to control everything, but you can't do everything well. Right. And so what I can do really well, you might as well benefit from that. So I think where we're seeing the trend coming into providers like myself, like Covenir BPO, is really on those places where they want to focus, they want to leverage, and then they want to keep their focus and their key resources focused on the things that are strategic to them. And let me do the rest of it.
Love that. Awesome. Was there anything, David, that I didn't ask you that you wanted to get out?
No, man. I just think this has been phenomenal. I appreciate the time with you, and congratulations on the success of 5M. This is very exciting. I'm so happy to be a part of it, and appreciate you inviting me.
Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.